Okay, today I plan to end all Android lectures, at least from me. Plan to finish this up, but I'm a little out on a limb. I had grand plans of figuring stuff out, but ran into a real roadblock last night, and then dreamed up a solution somewhere along the way, but haven't had a chance to test it, so I'm going to try it here in class. So I'm a little out on a limb. A few things I've got worked out when it comes to XML and saving arrays as or reading or XML into an array. But there are other things that I'm not quite sure about yet. I haven't tried, but I have an idea, so hopefully with your help we'll be able to sort that out. So I'm a little bit out on a limb. Also means that I don't have an actual starter for you, but I do in the in-class folder have a couple of files that you can download. This is a DVD class that matches the DVD class, except for all the validation stuff that you built in Programming Logic Intermediate. What I did to demonstrate XML to you today is I opened up Microsoft Access and did an export. And so I took that DVD database that I had for you last year, the simple one without the multi-table stuff, and I simply did an export to XML. And that's what we're going to be using today to introduce you to XML, because most of you said I don't even know how to spell it yet, so you need some help with XML. And then show you how to read from it using Android. And once you've learned how to do it in Android, it kind of gives you a feel for many of the other languages. What I haven't quite got sorted out yet is how to write that file back again. And I had a bright idea, and I think I know how to do this, but we're going to have to play with that in class a little bit today, so hopefully it won't go too long. Once I'm done with that, I still have to create the Unit 9 assignment for you, which would basically be take your Unit 8 assignment and read the data in your Christmas list or your birthday list, read that in from a XML file. And then when you're done, save it so that you don't lose that data. So that assignment hasn't been dreamed up yet either. There is no XML compatible file or chapter in the book, so you're done when you get done with 33, you're done with all the book exercises, and Unit 9's Lab 9 will be the last one that I assign. My guess is you'll have the last 2 weeks all lab, depending on how things go today. So if you haven't done it, if you're not working on it yet, please download these, and then go ahead and start a new project, call it Unit 9 Sample or whatever you want to call it, and I'll restart this recording in a minute because I need to download these as well. A quick piece of instruction: I really don't want any of this stuff on here, so I'm going to pull all that out by following my steps that I sent you via email. I'm going to follow these offline. If you need that email again, make sure you ask me. I can send it to you again, but this is the steps for making that look pretty much the same. So I'm going to pause the recording again and go through those steps just because I don't want that little email icon. Okay, I think I got all this cleaned up. My emulator is running, and I've got a gray title bar instead of anything else, so I should be in pretty good shape. Now for this application, what I want to do is add two things to my layout. What I want to do is simply read in these DVDs. The DVD class, first of all, needs to be added to my project. The XML files that we're going to read in need to be added to my project. So the first thing I'm going to do is copy from that folder, minimize this. Here's those 3 files that I downloaded from the starter. So here's my DVD class. So I'm going to copy that from here and then paste it into the project where you would normally just create it. And I have to change the name. How did it get to be big? That's interesting. Oh, it doesn't have to be lowercase in there, it just has to be lowercase down here. So that name's okay. So now my DVD class is there. Let's just take a quick look. It's got a DVD ID, a title, a purchase date. I made all these strings for the most part to keep things simple. I could have made the data calendar, but that's not the point here. Created a constructor and then just all the standard getters. And I created a toString because what I do hope to do is show these DVD titles in a list view so I can scroll through them. If I just throw them into a text view, okay, I can see the first half of them, but I can't see that it actually ended properly. So I'm going to actually throw these into a list view just to get warmed up, and that'll also get us a little bit of a review on list views. So nothing too exciting in there. Now the next thing we need are the XML files. I brought 2 of them in. We don't need them both. This is just an extra one. Here's the DVD. Let's just use the DVDs. If you want to, you can look at the maintenance one. That's the car maintenance database. Same concepts. So we don't need them both. The only one we need is the XML file. In my notes it says, in your resources, create a new folder called XML. So I'm going to create a new Android resource directory. And the resource type is going to be XML. That's what my notes say. And about 3 pages later, it says, if you want to write some of this stuff, you can't seemingly write to that XML folder. That was then. I haven't tried the now, so I'm going to leave this folder, and I'm going to put the XML file for DVDs in there. And I'm also going to create a raw folder, because I know I can write to a raw folder, and then see if I can read from there. So maybe because I'm reading and writing, maybe because I'm trying to do both, I have to use one or the other. I don't think I can, and I don't want to read from one and write to the other. That doesn't make any sense. I need to read and write from the same place. So just to be safe, I'm going to create another resource directory, a raw directory, that we know we can read and write text from. And then I'm going to copy the DVD's XML file into there. Into both of them. Just to be safe. Now I just double clicked on the raw folder, and inside it's already showing me the XML. Interesting layout, but anyways, the XML for that database. And if this is the first time you've ever looked inside an XML file, first of all, recognize that an XML file is pure text. There's nothing in here but formatted. And what I mean by formatted is not the colors here, but the tags. Very similar to HTML. HTML is pure text. CSS is pure text, but it's got all these start-end tags all over the place to help designate things. XML was created to give us a very, very portable database format. Remember, with MySQL, it was very difficult to transfer our databases. With my MS SQL, it's hard to transfer databases. Access, if you don't know how to read the contents of an Access file, forget it. We got Visual Studio to do it, but not all programs have access to that content of a database. So XML was created to allow us, one of the reasons it was created is allow us to go through and save in pure text format a database. Part of the reason it's pure text is it makes it very portable. You can read it on a Mac, you can read it on a mobile device, you can read it on a Windows machine. Plus, because it's text, it's also relatively fast. As fast as a database program? No. But if you have 150, 200 DVDs, you'll see if we do this right, they'll read in and fill a list view instantaneously. So that's pretty fast. Very, very portable. Notice the way the whole thing is built. First, it starts off with an XML version. I think you can actually leave this off and it still works okay. Then at the beginning is the data root, which basically says, here's the root tag for my data. At the very end, there's an end root. Those tags are sensed by all the HTML readers so that when you read this one, it knows it's hit the end of the file. It's basically an end of file marker. Here's the beginning of data marker. And then for every record, in this case, I got the name of the table. And this is just what Access gave me. I didn't type any of this stuff. The name of the table was TBL DVD. And so the begin tag is TBL DVD and the end tag is TBL DVD. And then notice there's another begin tag and then there'll be another end tag, and it's all very, very structured. If you wanted to, I think you can indent these and it doesn't cause a whole lot of trouble, but here's one record. And you can see for every field, it starts with the field name, followed by the value, followed by an end tag, start tag, end tag, start tag, end tag, and so on. Not real hard to figure out. This is a simple XML file. Others are very, very complex, but they're pure text. They have beginning and ends. They have structure to them. One of the things my notes mentions to you, and by the way, my notes are not completely up to date. I took a bunch of stuff out. I haven't posted that yet. I'm not quite done. I'll get that done this week. But what my notes say is that you, the programmer, have to know the structure of the XML file. There's no program out there that just goes through and said, read it and understand it, particularly because it could be a maintenance database, it could be a DVD database, it could be who knows what. So you have to know the structure of the XML file. If you're stealing XML files from websites, or XML files are being sent to you by websites because you download them, they usually have some kind of documentation file nearby that you can read to tell you how that file is structured. But it's just text. But reading these kinds of files is so common that many languages nowadays have built into them readers for XML to help you navigate those a little more effectively. Now, before we do all that, I need to get my app ready to allow me to test here. So I'm going into the content layout, and I'm going to add to this a button at the top of the screen. And I'm going to call that button load. And I just can't get past BTN anymore, so I gave up trying to get past it and just using it. Many of you are using TXT for your edit text, and I don't care. As long as it makes some sense.
A question.
Yep.
Are you sure you're supposed to be in content main? Because I don't have a content main.
If you used an older version, you don't.
Okay.
You would be in activity, but because I'm using this new version of it splits it.
Double checking.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then you'll also need a list view to display all my DVDs. And just tuck that underneath and leave it there. Excuse me. Give that thing a name. And I'm just going to use single choice. And I'll call it LV DVDs. The other thing that you might need for your Unit 8 assignments, it's the one with the multi-views that most of you aren't quite there yet, is the ability, and I think I talked about checking to see if we could pull this off, is the ability to have, how do you share the array between the two activities? You could send the whole array, sort of, except it's an array of objects, and Karen's been fighting with serializing those things, and I don't think did you ever get through that mess? No. So the other option is to do what we did in Programming Logic Intermediate. I think we did it in Intermediate. If we didn't, here's another way to do it. What we're going to do is create another class, a static class, that's going to manage our list, our array list. Because it's a class, like this DVD class is available to every activity that we have. Every activity can see it. So if we create another class that has nothing in it but a list, all the other classes and all the other activities can see inside it. So I want to show you how to do that today, and hopefully you'll be able to apply it to Unit 8. I'm going to create a new Java class, and I'm going to call it the DVD list class. And inside this class is only going to be one thing, and it's going to be static. Static means that if we were to instantiate this, which we wouldn't, if we were to instantiate it, every instantiation is going to share. Remember, static means share. It's going to share this piece of data. So if inside here, I create an array list, and first I'm going to make it public, and then static. Then I'm going to do an array list of DVDs. Give it a name, And I'll call it the DVDs S, sure. Because it's static, every one of the other classes now has access to that array. Before we declared them at the class level, now we're going to pretty much a global level. So that all of your activities have access to this array. The only thing that's different is whenever you reference the DVDs, plural, array, you must preface it with DVD list. But that's pretty minor. And you can always create an alias for it and call it my DVDs that points to this thing, and you can do all kinds of stuff to make this easier to use. So this is all you have to do to create a static list that is shareable across multiple activities. I've declared it. I have not instantiated it. I could. I'm trying to remember if I did in my solution or not. I think I might have. So let's instantiate it here and just say that it's a new array list. Done. So as soon as I launch my program, this class is going to become part of my program, and that DVD list, DVDs, is going to be available to all the activities. And I can add to it, I can walk through it with the list, but you'll see this a little bit later. In order to access it, I'm going to have to preface everything with dvdlist.dvds. We don't instantiate to get to static elements. So we don't have to create an object of this class. We don't have to do that. We can tell the class, hey, I know you exist, I know you got a static member, give it to me. Or change it. Just as an example, let's take this out. And I'm going to save all this because I haven't run it yet, and I did get caught. My Surface went a little stupid on me, and I did a lot of typing and never ran it. Let's go to the main activity. In the main activity, somewhere I have to initiate my list. Because it's not done in the class now. I have to initiate it someplace. I'm just going to do it in onload so that you can, or on create so that you can see it. What I want to do is get to the DVDs. And notice if I just say DVDs, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. It's inside the DVD list class. So I tell the class, hey, you, class, DVD list. I know you got some DVDs. Instantiate. Now what's in that list? Nothing. Now we can start adding elements to it. But the point here is whenever I want to reference that array now, I simply have to preface it with the name of the class. Now a minute ago I was talking about creating an alias for it, or an alternate name. Instead of doing this, and this is the preferred way, but here's an alternate way, I could say let's create a pointer that is an array list. So I'm going to create an array list pointer. And if I do it that way, I think I have to designate that it's DVDs, DVD. And I'll call this one my DVDs. Then I can say that my DVDs is equal to the DVD list DVDs. What does that do? It has two pointers pointing to the same place now. So this one would be a little shorter. And then I could simply say my DVDs equals a new array list. It's kind of a long way about it. But the point is, if you don't like putting DVD list in front of everything, make an alias, a second name for this thing. That's all nice, but I'm going to comment that out and go back to the other method. Because this isn't terrible. So this created an alternate name, an alternate pointer to the same list, just so I don't have to put the DVD list in front. Because after this, I can just call it my DVDs, my DVDs, my DVDs, my DVDs, all the way through. I will need access to my list view, so I'm going to create those globally here. So I'm going to create a list view called LV DVDs, and I'm going to need access to my button. And normally, you know me, in here I would create a method that links all my widgets. Sure, why not? And then define the method to do that. Most of you are getting pretty good at this. Either you're stealing mine or you're typing it and you're getting pretty good at it. Public void, link the widgets. And inside here, my list view DVDs is equal to a list view. Find and my button and finally I'm going to set my on click handler here too. Don't forget the red light bulb, click and make it work. Now most of my code is going to be down here in on click. Actually, most of my code is going to be in a method that's going to test my XML. Let's write one more method here. And for right now, we'll leave it empty. When I click the button, what I want the application to do is launch and just sit there, because what I had this do once was load it right away, then I had errors and I had trouble. So I wanted to just sit there to start with until I click the load button, and then it'll go out, get the XML file, and throw it all into the list view. So in on-click, the first thing I'm going to do is read in all of the XML into my array. Now my notes also say that this technique that we're using, it's called a pull parser, pulls it out of a file, parses it, throws it someplace. It's very flexible. And that's why I'm showing you this technique. I haven't got there yet, but it's very flexible. There are other methods. I'm going to leave them in my notes. I thought about deleting them, but I'm going to leave them there if you're interested. That use DOM parsers, and you might have heard, hopefully by now, have heard the word DOM in HTML, that it's the document object model. It describes how, or describes all of those tags inside your HTML. The problem with the DOM parser is that you must read in an entire file. You have to store it locally, and if you've got just a small amount of memory on your device, once upon a time that was a worry, or you have a couple million records, you might not want to use that technique. This technique that I'm going to show you allows you to read one record. We could go out and say read until you find DVD number 127, then suck that one in and show it on the screen. And never bring the rest of them into memory except to read them real quick and skip them. So it's a very powerful technique. So we're going to read them all in, just as a demonstration. We're going to read them all in, and then what I'm going to do when I click the button is I'm going to link the array, now that it's full, to my list view so that it displays. So I'm going to need an array adapter, and it's going to have in it DVDs. And I always forget how to do this. Do I need that? According to my notes, no. I'm just going to abbreviate it very much, ADT, and it's going to be equal to a new array adapter with a bunch of stuff. We're going to need it linked to the, nope, that's where the DVD goes. Copying notes on the side here. Then the parentheses, linked to this, and then remember we have to describe the row. I'm not doing custom rows here, you should be good at it by now, but I'm just going to use an Android R layout. Dot simple list item 1. And I'm going to link that to my array. Wait a minute. The array's in the class. Doesn't matter. I just have to designate that it's in the class. It's inside my, what was it, DVD list class? Yep. I'll come back to that in a second. So we're going to fill up the array. That's what this is going to do. I'm going to write that next. I'm going to fill up the array. Then we're going to link that array that's sitting in a completely different class into this list view. And yes, it works. I've done it. Not on this program, but I've done it. So then I have to do my LV list view DVDs, set the adapter to the ADT. And now everybody's linked together. I did get a little ahead of myself here. What I really should do, and I think I'm going to put it in here, is put in a toast. You don't need to follow unless you want to test yours as well. But I'm going to test mine. I'm going to make text. Then I made it into read XML. And now give this a run because I've done a lot of typing. I've linked different classes in here, so I really want to make sure this works okay. If you need to see something while this is loading into my emulator, let me know. Okay, so my button is linked properly. My adapter is not causing any trouble, which there's nothing in it right now to display. That's why the list view is still empty. But after we get done with this last module now, what I hope is that this list view that's hidden here will start showing me my DVDs and their prices. Why would it do that? Because in my DVD class, I defined a toString that says give me the title and the price in parentheses. It's not pretty, but that's okay. You know how to make it pretty. If you're using one of these basic list views and you're not using a custom list view, toString defines what this class sends to get stuffed into this. That's what we're looking for. All right, all that was almost a review. Questions? Probably too confused, so let's just keep plowing ahead. Next thing I want to do is what this lesson is all about, and that's reading XML. If I can get this to read in, that'll be great. And the next test will be, can I write it out? And that's the part I'm not sure about. So I'm hoping in the next 20 minutes here that I can get this to read in. And if we can get that far, that'll be a nice process. If I don't finish it, we can't figure it out, then there might be a mini lecture next week to tell you what I did wrong. But we should be able to sort it out. So how we read it. Again, there's a number of different ways that we can read from XML. You can use the XML pull parser class built in. And I have not found anything on the web that says that was 2012, here's what you should be using in 2015. Doesn't mean there isn't something new that I haven't found yet. I get access to the new Android book from Murak as of next week. And if I learn anything new, I'll pass it on to you. The alternative is to actually read it using the DOM class. The instructions for how to do that are in here. If you want to experiment with that in your spare time over the break, I'm sure you have lots of better, that's exactly what you're looking forward to doing. Green will have it done. The notes are there. I'm not going to take the time to cover it here. It's an alternate way of reading them in XML or HTML or anything that's kind of structured like that file. These techniques can also be used to read a file from an internet page. You might go to a page and say, give me a list of all the posts to this bulletin board in the last 2 weeks. Okay, it sends it to you. Normally, it's either in XML format or another format I want to get in the back of your head is JSON format, JSON. It's another format that is also text-based. It's actually a little simpler. It just uses curly brackets. Instead of beginning and end brackets, it uses curly brackets. And it's another text-based format for transferring data from one place to another, particularly from a web page. When my books database sends me a list of the books that are stored on my website, it sends them to me in JSON format so I can see them on my phone. Because of the way I learned how to do this, I also learned how to get images from a web page. So if you went to Amazon and said, give me a list of all the books written by Stephen King, if you could figure out how to get that query in there, and that's an intermediate topic. But if you could figure out how to do that, you might also want to know, give me the picture of the book that you sent me, and that way you could, on your phone, have a list of whatever books you're searching for, and you have a custom list of getting the image off of Amazon as well. If you need it, all that stuff is there. I'm going to do nothing but pull parser today. We're going to read our XML files from the resources folder, so we're going to read them from the XML folder. So I copied them in there, made them lowercase, already did all that. We already browsed through it, saw the start end tags. And now we're going to learn how to use the pull parser class to walk through that and process it. First line we need is this one. I'm going to slide it over to the other screen. I'll type it. You can follow along. I'm going to, I took my toast message out already. So in here, I'm going to put in that XML pull parser command. That's a type. It's built in, automatically gets imported. Now I need to give it a name. You could call it XML. The examples I have, I'll call it XPP for XML pull parser. It's just a variable name at this point. And we don't instantiate, we get from the resources. I'm just copying from my notes on the other screen, so this is all in my notes. .get XML. And then there's the r.xml and then we called it DVDs. Now this is the place where things might get a little dicey. Can I get XML from the raw folder? Uh-oh. That's not good.
You get raw instead of get XML.
But I don't know if I can get resources and link it to a pull parser. There's no raw. So this is my uh-oh. I can get XML, but I can only get XML from the XML folder. And the last time I tried, and this was 2 years ago, so things may be different, but the last time I tried, I couldn't write to that folder. And if I can't read and write, I can't read from the raw folder, I could write to it. I sure hope I can write to the XML folder, or I'm asking you to do something that's not possible. You might have to do a different technique, and I'm not sure I'm going to go there. I'll introduce you a little bit to XML and how you can read it. Typically, that's what's done with XML. Nowadays, you get it off of a website. You talk to Google and say, give me a list of all the websites that are top 10 that talk about MSTC. Google sends you that information, typically in XML format. You read it, display it on your screen, done. You're not going to change that. But I can still show you how to read it. So let's get the reading done, and I'll try to figure out the writing part. So we got our pull parser. This goes and links us to that file. So this XPP file here now, pointer, links to this file. And now we can parse it. But how many records are in there? I don't know. So we need some technique to sense when we've hit the end of the file, when we need to quit. Now it could be because I found the DVD with the ID that I want. I only want one. In this case, I want lots of DVDs. But let's pretend we have a different example. I only want one DVD. You just keep going. Is this DVD number 12? Nope. This one? Nope. This one? Nope. This one? Oh, found it. But what if you don't find it? You fall off the end of the world, and then we got a problem. Then programs crash. So even if you're only looking for one, it's a good idea to use a while loop, because we don't know how many records there are, so we can't use a for loop. Did the same kind of thing in programming logic where we said while is not the end of file. Same concept here. While the XPP dot get the event type, and I'll explain that in just a second. And it's not equal to the XML pull parser constant called end document. That's basically read until you hit the end of file. Now, why am I getting yelled at? Because this needs a try parse. This could fail. Doesn't usually, better not. Yeah, we should probably have a catch. I don't think I even want to go through this process. Sure. And I'm going to clean up my code because it's looking a little ugly right now. So this try catch is just a requirement around this event, but and a few of these others as well. They all can potentially throw an exception, so we need try parses there. But that's the code that I'm really focused on, is this loop. So for those of you following along, I'm just going to take a pause here. So what's this get event type? It turns out that whenever we ask to read a new tag or data, a new tag from an XML file, it causes an event. And so that the name of this is get the event type. So we're getting an event. We're getting the next tag here. And what we're asking is, was it that end root, that end data root tag? If it's not the end data root tag, if we're not past the end of the document, then process this next tag. That's our logic. Now what do we do inside here? Inside here, we got to figure out what kind of a tag was it. Because there could be start tags, could be end tags. It could be the start tag for the ID, the start tag for the title. Each one of those has its own start tag. Remember the structure of this thing. We got to sort all those out. If it's not a start tag, it's an end tag, and we don't care about end tags. We just want to skip them. So the first thing that all the examples I've seen do is they check to see if it's a start tag. If the XPP, get the event type, same one we just got, is equal to the XML pull parser dot, it always gives me that one for some reason, start document, no, start tag. And you do have control over all those others if you want to. If it's a start tag, then we're going to process it. Because we want the data that comes after it, and I'll show you how to do that. If it's not, then just skip it. And before I forget, because I almost did, after I've processed one tag, I want to get the next one. xpp.next. I put that in the wrong place. I had it inside my switch statement, which is coming up here. And caused me all kinds of grief. My app would just sit there. Endless loop, because it never hit the end because I never told it to go to the next tag. And it just got into an endless loop and it just sat there and locked up the emulator and made all kinds of problems. So this is a very important command. It needs to be after the if. We process one tag. After we process it, we get the next one. We come up and say, is that the end of the document? No. Is it a start tag? No. Skip it. Get the next one. Once we find a start tag, now we can start processing. The next thing we want to know is, okay, what's the name of this tag? And this is actually optional, but I think it's a nice little touch here. String tag name equals XPP, get the tag name. So we know it's a start tag or an end tag, but we don't know, is it the ID, is it the title, is it the, and this again is where you, the programmer, need to know. This is where you, the programmer, need to know the structure of the XML file. What does it look like? What are the tag names? And you can go flying through these. And now, again, taking a little leap into another world here, if I only wanted to get the DVD with ID number 12, I could go through these and keep reading until I hit the DVD ID tag. And when I do, I can compare it. Is it 12? No, skip it. And keep going until I get to the next ID tag. Is it 12? No, skip it. Next ID tag. And they don't just come line after line after line. Remember, there was all these tags in between, titles and prices and purchase dates and where I purchased it and all that other junk that's in there. Each one of those is a separate tag, and you have to skip them. There is no way that I found to say skip everything to the next record. There may be. I'm not an expert on this XML stuff. This is the technique that I was shown, and I haven't gone beyond it because it works. There might be a way to say go to the next record or keep going until you hit the start table tag. But I don't think I need that. All right, let me make sure I'm in a good place here. Start tag, yep, get the name, yep. Now remember, back to the real world now, what I really want to do is capture the data that's in this XML file, put it into a DVD object, and then put that object into my list. So I'm creating my array from an XML file. So there's my start tag, and now with the latest and greatest version of Android, we can use a switch on a string. All the examples I see on the web are still using if, else if, else if, else if, else if, else if. Of course, they're also 3 years old, all the ones I found. They're 3 years old. The switch statement didn't work on strings back then. Remember, I had to update my notes in this class for that. But now we can. So we can take a look at the tag names. Now remember, the tag names I'm talking about here are, did I close it? Must have. Are these tag names right here. Could be that one. Or it could be one of these. To simplify processing today, I'm not going to process every single one of these fields. I'm only going to grab a couple of them, like the title and the price, because that's what my toString uses. And the rest of them I'm going to skip just to save a little bit of processing time. Or a little bit of class time. So the first thing I want to know is that tag equal to TBL, DVD, and these are case sensitive. Some fool, when he built this database, called this DVD ID all caps. Whoa. And look, that one's all caps on the DVD. So these are case sensitive, so I have to make sure that you copy these right, otherwise stuff don't work. If it is the new, basically that's a new record tag, right? If it's a new record, then I'm going to define a variable here someplace. Let's put it here. And I'm just going to call it lowercase DVD. Whenever I hit the new tag, I'm going to define new instantiation of that. I'm going to make this point to a new DVD.
Don't you have to process the end tag for the DVD so you save the record?
Nope. I'm going to save it when I find the price because I know that's where I want to quit.
Oh, okay.
So that's a good point. I can do the end tag, but that complicates the whole thing, doesn't it? Because right now I'm just looking for start tags and Reen's saying, wait a minute, aren't you going to close this off when you're done? No. How do I know when to stick this in the array? Another alternative is if I hit a new tag to immediately create a new one in the array, I'm going to do a little bit different. So there's a lot of ways to solve this problem. Break, that's all I want to do. So if I'm walking through this XML file and I see this tag, it means it's a new DVD that needs to be added to my array ultimately. But for right now, I'm simply going to instantiate a new empty DVD. If it's title, is it capital T? Yep, and price capital P. If it's the title, what can I assume here? First of all, I can assume there must have been one of these first, so the DVD record already exists because of the sequence of my XML file. So I can simply say that the DVD dot set the title to what? Okay, here's the last trick here. What do I set the title to? XPP, that's my parser, dot next text. What? Trust me. What are you complaining about? Next text parentheses looks good. Set title wide. Oh, because DVD might not be instantiated. So here, just to make it shut up, I'm going to say it's a new DVD. And then I'm immediately going to replace it with another new one. Even if I set it to null, I don't think it'll let me do this. So this error was caused because DVD may not be instantiated yet. Stupid program. I know it's instantiated. But I just put that up there to get it to shut up. And then a break. And then I'll do price real quick. Price is a little trickier because price in the XML file, guess what type it is? It's text. In the business class, it's a double. So I'm going to have to get a little snazzier and say dvd.setThePrice. And who did I steal this from? I think Isaac found this one, and I haven't talked about it. But I'm going into the, what was it? It was double dot, is it get value? Isaac, help me out here. Value of? There we go. Value of. Is that better than parse? If you know it's good, and if it's in my XML file, it should have been validated a long time ago. That's another way to parse, basically, the value of xpp.nextText. NextText is simply the text that follows this tag, be it this text or that text or that text. It's the text that follows the tag. It's the way whoever dreamed up this class made it work. We have to follow the rules. I could go get all of the other fields. But to save me from having to type 6 or 7 different cases, particularly with some of the other ones that are Booleans and I have to translate them, and I'm sure you, I know, I'm confident that you can figure that out when you need it. And I think your birthday lists are all text and prices anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem. But if you had a Boolean in your database, how would you do it? And if I have time and you don't ask me too many questions, maybe I'll finish this up and show you how to read those other types in. If they're integers, it's integer value of. If they're doubles, they're either one, or if they're Booleans, they're ones or zeros, and we have to translate. The calendars might be a little dicey, but you know how to do most of that calendar translation as well. So the cases for all the other fields go in there. I think I'm done.
Gotta save it.
Good. Now, that wasn't the save that he meant, because he said you got to save. That was this. Where here did I ever put it into my array? I've created this DVD object, and I've gave it nice data, but it's sitting there. What happens when I get to the next start tag? It wipes this one out, loses it forever, and starts a new one. So what I need to do is save it to the array after I've read the last field. So let's just go take a quick look. I think the last field is category. So I'm going to create a case for categories. And I could transfer the category, sure, why not? Set the category to the xpp.nextText. And because this is the last field, I'm going to add the record to the array. And the way I do that is using the add command, but remember my array is in that external class, so I have to do that DVD list.dvds.add DVD. Remember my DVD is the one I'm working on here. Now I'm going to pause the recording because unfortunately for the people who aren't here, this is going to be hard to demonstrate. I'm going to go to the whiteboard and kind of walk through this real quick before I give you a break. Maybe I'll leave the recording on, maybe you'll be able to hear it. But I think this is the end of my code. Go to the next one, yep, and then the only thing I put in, yep, is a toast. So yes, that's the end of my logic here. So let's see, I should be able to get both of these up at the same time. So here's my logic. I'm going to go to the board and draw a little bit here, and you can help me guide through here. Make a little more room. So somewhere I already have my DVD list, and I think up above here I instantiated it, if I remember right. And so walking through the program, I'm going to draw pictures on the board. There's my pull parser. Where did I instantiate it on? Load? Okay, so I've already instantiated it. So I have my DVD list. And inside there is a thing called DVDs. And it points to, right now, nothing. But because this is a static class, I always have to refer to it by listing the class name first. And then the thing inside the class that I want, which is my list. It points to nothing. Now down here in my on-click doesn't do much, right? My on-click just says do this stuff and then throw it into the list view. So this gives me a pull parser that points to my XML file. That's what that line does. The line numbers on here so that you can see those. I can refer to them as I talk here. Stop it. Okay, so line 65 creates a pointer to my XML file. And then I create a pointer to a DVD called little DVD. And I'm starting to sense, because I was doing some debugging this weekend for some of you, that these uppercase, lowercase versions of these variables are causing some of you trouble because which one is what where. If they are, give them new names. I almost called this a DVD. I just don't like typing the capital letter. What is it? It's last day of lecture. Take shortcuts. Okay. If it helps, give them better names or different names. And in this case, it's a brand new DVD. So poof, I've got one. And it's got all its stuff. And right now, all of those are empty. Nulls, zeros, or whatever I initiated them to in the constructor. But they're all empty. Then I have my while loop that says that pointer XPP that you have to the XML file, is it pointing to the end of the document right now? No. Is it pointing to a start tag? Yes. Is that start tag any one of those things? DVD, title, category? No. Is it a start tag? And it goes back up. Is it a start tag? Yes. Is it one of these? No. Skip it. Is it one of these? Yes. Poof. There we create a new DVD. So what happens to this one? It just goes out into the big bit bucket in the sky because my pointer just left here and is now pointing to this one. Seems kind of a waste of space, doesn't it? That was just to make the stupid switch statement happen. Ultimately, our garbage collector will say, nobody's using this. Need a better garbage collector. Okay, nobody's using this and it'll get rid of it. So it's not a big pain. It's not taking up too much memory. All right, so we created another new one. That was here. Then we're coming down to the DVD1 tag. We read that. Is it a start tag? Yes. Is it one of those? No. Skip it. So it skips it. We just keep doing, where's the skip it? Well, the switch statement doesn't have a DVD ID in it. And if you don't have a default, and I don't, then what does it do? It just skips the if statement, the switch statement, and it goes to the next tag, which is the end tag, and we ignore all the end tags because our if statement only processes start tags. So the next, this is the skip it is don't do anything in the switch statement and it go to the next tag. The XPP next doesn't go to the text, it goes to the tag. The next command finds the next tag magically. Good news is we don't have to worry about that. And so where were we? Title. Is it a start tag? Yep. Get its name, title. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? Yes. Then take the next text, which is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and make it the title of the DVD. Done. Then what happens? Next tag, end tag, purchase date, don't care, price. Ooh, cool. Is it price? Yes. What do I do when it's price? Take that text, turn it into a double, and put it in the price of $13.68. What about all these others? Well, you should fill those in probably, but to save time in typing, just skipping them and doing a few. And so then we hit the store, who cares? Hit the length, nope, skip it. Blu-ray, skip it. Category. I read the category, which takes the text of category, which is comedy, puts that into the DVD, and then the key part here is it adds this to the list. DVD still points to it, doesn't matter. But the DVD list now has this DVD in it. Goes to the next tag. Is that a start tag? No. Is that a start tag? Yes. It's a DVD. So guess what happens now? Then we create a new one of these. And DVD points to it. But this one's not lost in space because my list is still pointing to it. Then we fill this one up, add it to the list. Make a new one. Fill it up, add it to the list, and we just keep adding it to the list. So that's kind of a pictorial view of what this code is doing. What I haven't done yet a lot of stuff going on here, is run it and see if it works. I think it should. Green's pretty positive. Go. That's what happens when you cross your fingers. Remember that. And these are even already alphabetized. Well, that's because they came out of the database that way. Not because I did anything to them. They're not, there's no magic here. However they came out of the database is how they appear here. And so now we have a way of reading XML files in. My next problem is, I'm going to try this after the break, is how do we get them back out again? See if I can make that work. And my real kick is, can I get them out and replace this file somehow? I'm not real confident. So take 10, come back, and we'll do a little bit more.